Millionaire CEO hires fake date to fool his ex, then everything changes. She stood frozen, eyes wide, staring at the cracked glass on the floor, shards glittering like broken promises. The sound of the front door clicking shut behind her was the only thing breaking the deafening silence. In her trembling hand, she clutched the crumpled note, blood-stained, smeared with smudged ink she could barely read. "You don't know the truth, but soon you will." How had it come to this? Just hours ago, she'd been walking into what should have been the happiest night of her life, the wedding of her ex. But now, as the weight of those words settled in, she realized everything she thought she knew was a lie. The grand ballroom was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and whispered congratulations. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead like stars, casting a golden glow on the crowd below. At the center stood Julian Hart, the self-made millionaire CEO, the man whose name opened doors and closed deals. Tonight, he was marrying a woman whose smile barely reached her eyes, and across the room, Claire Harper watched it all from the shadows. Her heart was pounding so loudly she was sure Julian could hear it. The man who had once promised her forever was now promising forever to someone else, a woman she barely recognized. Julian didn't see her at first. He was too busy smiling for the cameras, shaking hands, and playing the part of the perfect groom. But Claire had a plan, a secret, a chance to turn the tables, if only she could survive the night. 2 months ago, Julian had called her out, of the blue, after years of silence. "I'm getting married," he'd said simply, the coldness in his voice cutting deeper than any rejection before. Claire had laughed bitterly. "So why are you calling me?" "To introduce you to someone," Julian had replied cryptically. "Someone who might make you see things differently." He never explained more. But Claire had no intention of being forgotten or erased. Not this time. As the ceremony began, Claire slipped through the crowd, her eyes searching for a face she knew. A man who wasn't Julian. He was waiting for her near the back exit, tall and mysterious, with a faint scar running across his jaw. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly. Claire nodded. "I need you to be my date tonight," he smirked. "Fake date to fool the ex? Classic." "Not just fool," she said. "I want him to regret everything." Julian noticed her then, the woman who had haunted his past, standing with a stranger at the edge of the ballroom. His smile faltered. A flicker of something dark passed through his eyes. "Claire," he said under his breath. More a warning than a greeting, but she didn't look away. The night was just beginning, and none of them knew how far the lies would go, or how deadly the secrets they hid beneath the surface would become. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The music slowed. A voice echoed through the hall, clear, cold, impossible to ignore. "Everyone deserves to know the truth." And with that, the screen behind the stage lit up, revealing a series of photos. Julian with a woman who wasn't his bride. Gasps filled the room. Eyes turned, Julian's jaw clenched. Claire's heart raced, because now the game had truly begun. The ballroom was frozen in shock. The whispered gasps rippled like waves through the crowd. Julian's face drained of color, eyes darting around, as if searching for an escape. Claire's grip tightened on the stranger's arm, the only anchor in a sea of chaos. "Who's that woman?" a guest whispered nearby, eyes glued to the screen. The photos flashed again, Julian smiling warmly. With a woman whose presence was as real as the betrayal seeping into the air, Julian's bride's smile faltered. The elegant facade cracked. Julian cleared his throat, stepping forward, his voice forced but steady. "This is a mistake, a misunderstanding." But the doubt had already planted itself like poison. Claire's mind raced. How had this happened? Who was behind the reveal? Her eyes flicked to the stranger beside her, the man she'd convinced to play her fake date, a man she barely knew but trusted more than anyone in that room. "Who are you, really?" she whispered, tension tightening her voice. He smiled faintly, eyes dark with secrets. Let's just say I'm someone who doesn't like lies. The night spiraled out of control. Julian's carefully crafted image crumbled as rumors ignited. Like wildfire, Claire's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You think you're safe tonight? Think again. Her breath hitched. Who was watching, and why was she suddenly the target? The stranger, who introduced himself simply as Alex, pulled her toward a quieter corner. We need a plan, he said urgently. Julian isn't the only one hiding secrets. Claire stared at him, heart pounding. The fake date had become her only lifeline, but could she trust him? Meanwhile, Julian retreated to a private room, fury boiling beneath his calm exterior. His wedding night was unraveling faster than he could control. Find out who leaked those photos, he snapped at his assistant, and make sure they regret it. His gaze hardened as he stared at the shattered glass on the floor, a mirror of the night's broken trust. Back in the ballroom, Claire's mind flashed to the blood-stained note she had found just hours earlier. What did it mean? Who had written it? And why was it left for her to find? Her phone buzzed again, another message, this time a photo. Julian, in a secret meeting, whispering with someone unknown. The puzzle pieces were falling into place, but the picture they formed was darker than she had imagined. Alex's hand brushed hers. You're in deeper than you think. This isn't just about Julian, it's about everything he's built, and who he's willing to destroy to keep it. Claire swallowed. Hard. The line between friend and enemy was blurring. Her fake date was becoming her reality, and the only way to survive was to play the game. Suddenly, the ballroom doors burst open. A tall figure entered, eyes scanning the crowd and locking. Onto Claire. Claire Harper, the voice called out, cold and sharp. You've been warned to stay away. The room fell silent again, all eyes on the unfolding drama. The stranger's grip on Claire's arm tightened. Who was that? She asked. Someone from your past, Alex said grimly, and they're not here to watch the show. Claire's heart pounded harder than ever. The fake date, the mystery messages, the sudden threats. It was all spiraling into something deadly. As the night stretched on, alliances formed and shattered like glass. Julian's empire, built on secrets and lies, was crumbling, and Claire was right at the center, but the biggest shock was yet to come. Near the end of the night, Alex pulled Claire aside and handed her an envelope. Open it when you're alone, he whispered. She nodded, fingers trembling. As the crowd began to thin, Claire slipped away, heart racing. In the privacy of an empty corridor, she tore open the envelope. Inside was a single photograph, but not just any photo. It was a picture of Julian standing beside a woman Claire had never seen before. But what caught her breath was the date scrawled in the corner, a date only 2 weeks ago. A secret meeting, a hidden betrayal. Claire knew one thing for sure: nothing was as it seemed, and the millionaire CEO's perfect life was about to explode. Claire stood frozen in the dim corridor, the photograph trembling in her hands. The woman in the picture was a stranger, but the date, just 2 weeks ago, was a punch to the gut. How could Julian, her ex, be meeting someone secretly so close to his wedding? Her mind raced through every moment of the night, trying to fit the pieces together. Why was this photo sent to her? Who was Alex, really? And why did the man at the ballroom threaten her? Her phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. Trust no one. They're all playing a game. Claire's breath hitched. The walls seemed to be closing in. She was no longer just a bystander. She was a player in a dangerous game of lies and revenge. Alex reappeared in the corridor, his eyes dark with concern. Did you open it? Claire nodded. That woman. I don't recognize her, but Julian was meeting her recently. Alex's jaw tightened. That's what I was afraid of. Julian's secrets run deeper than you know. They moved quietly back into the shadows of the ballroom, but Claire's mind was elsewhere. She remembered the blood-stained note she'd found hours earlier. What if it wasn't meant for her alone? What if there was someone else in danger? Alex, she whispered. Who else knows about this? He hesitated. More than you think, and some of them won't hesitate to hurt anyone who gets close. Suddenly, the ballroom's atmosphere shifted. A new player had entered the scene. Julian's bride, Emily, was no longer the fragile woman Claire had thought. Her eyes burned with a cold fire, scanning the room like a predator. Claire caught her gaze, and Emily's smile was razor-sharp. You should be careful, Emily whispered to Claire when their paths crossed. Not everything is as simple as you think. Claire's heart hammered. The wedding night had turned into a battlefield, and Emily was an enemy cloaked in silk and perfume. Backstage, Julian paced. The fallout from the photo leak had damaged his carefully built reputation, but he was far from defeated. Find out who sent the pictures, he commanded his assistant. And make sure it stops, permanently. His voice was ice, his threat unmistakable. Meanwhile, Claire and Alex formed an uneasy alliance. They needed answers, and fast. Alex led Claire to a small cafe off the main street, away from the prying. Eyes of Julian's world, I have a contact, Alex said quietly. Someone who knows the truth about Julian's past. Claire nodded. Hope flickered despite the fear. At the cafe, they met a man named Marcus, sharp-eyed and cautious. Marcus slid a file across the table. Julian Hart isn't just a businessman, Marcus said. He's tangled in things you don't want to know about. Corporate espionage, blackmail, and worse. Claire's pulse quickened. The man she once loved was a stranger to her. Marcus handed her a photo album filled with candid shots, Julian meeting with various shady figures, exchanging envelopes and speaking in hushed tones. One image froze Claire's blood. Julian standing beside a man she recognized from her past, a man who had betrayed her years ago. Why show me this? Claire demanded, voice shaking. Marcus leaned in. Because someone wants you to know, because they want to destroy him. And you. Alex's grip tightened on Claire's hand. We're running out of time. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. Her dreams were haunted by memories of Julian, the promises, the lies, the betrayals. She realized that this fake date, this plan to fool her ex, had dragged her into a world she barely understood, and one she might never escape. The next morning, Claire received a package at her apartment. Inside was a USB drive, no note. Alex's voice came through her phone as she plugged it in. Whatever is on that drive will change everything. Claire sat down, hands shaking, and pressed play. The video showed Julian in a secret meeting, this time with a woman. The same one from the mysterious photograph. Their conversation was hushed but intense. Words like deal, cover-up, and betrayal echoed. But then the camera caught something else. Julian holding an envelope thick with cash, handing it over to the woman. Claire's world tilted. The Millionaire CEO wasn't just hiding affairs or lies. He was involved in something much darker. And now the woman in the photo was a key player in a dangerous game. Suddenly, her phone rang. The caller ID was blocked. A voice she didn't recognize whispered, "Stop digging, Claire, or you'll lose everything." The line went dead. Claire looked at Alex, fear and determination swirling in her eyes. "This is bigger than I thought," she said, "and I don't know if I'm ready for what's coming next." Alex smiled grimly. "None of us are." Outside, the city buzzed with oblivious life. But inside Claire's small apartment, a storm was gathering, one that would change everything. Claire had never felt so awake in her life. Her heart thudded in her chest like a drum roll of dread. The video on the USB kept replaying in her mind. Julian exchanging money with a mysterious woman, whispering words like cover-up and deal. Every second proved he was hiding something darker than she'd ever imagined, and now someone was warning her to stop digging. But Claire had come too far to back down. She wasn't the same broken woman Julian left behind. She wasn't just a fake date in a cruel revenge plan anymore. She was in this, and now she wanted the truth, no matter what it cost her. "I need to know who that woman is," Claire said as she paced her living room. "The one Julian gave the cash to. She's the key." Alex, calm as ever, leaned against the wall. "I already ran a face scan on the video. Her name is Natalia Voss." Claire stopped. "Why does that name sound familiar?" Alex tapped something into his phone. "Because 5 years ago, she was involved in a corporate whistleblower scandal, exposing a billion-dollar fraud within a tech startup. The case was buried. All charges vanished. Then she disappeared." Claire's blood went cold. "And now she's working with Julian?" Alex nodded grimly. "Or against him? That's what we need to find out." They met again with Marcus, Julian's former business partner, turned reluctant informant. "She was paid to disappear," Marcus said, pulling up an old contract. Julian's lawyers cleaned it up. She had evidence that could ruin him back. But he bought her silence. Claire stared at the contract. Natalia's signature was real. Her payout $2 million, but now she's back. "Why?" Claire asked. "Because the deal's broken," Marcus replied, "and Julian's afraid." Claire leaned back, thoughts racing. "Then he's hiding more than just betrayal. He's hiding a crime." Later that night, Claire sat in silence in her apartment, listening to the city buzz outside while her whole world quietly burned from the inside out. Her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "You're getting too close. Last warning." Claire exhaled shakily. "They're watching me." Alex looked out the window, eyes scanning. "They're watching both of us." She turned to him. "Why are you helping me? Be honest." Alex didn't flinch. "Because Julian once ruined someone I cared about, and I never forgot." Claire looked at him. Really looked. For the first time, the fake date didn't feel fake at all. It felt like the beginning of something real. The next day, Emily, Julian's new bride, reached out, unexpected, unnerving. She sent a location, an upscale hotel lounge, no explanation. Claire hesitated. "What if it's a trap?" Alex replied, "Then we go together." The lounge was elegant and quiet, too calm for the storm Claire expected. Emily sat by the window, glass of champagne untouched. "I know everything," Emily said the moment Claire sat down, "and I'm not the woman you think I am." Claire blinked, unsure. "What are you saying?" Emily took a slow breath. "Julian married me for image, power. I agreed, because I wanted access. I'm not here for love. I'm here to destroy him." Claire's heart skipped. "Why would you do that?" Emily's eyes darkened. "Because my sister was Natalia Voss." The world spun. Claire's hands trembled. "Your sister? The woman from the video?" Emily nodded. She exposed the truth. Once, Julian ruined her life in return. She lost her job, her identity, everything. He paid her to vanish, then set her up later to discredit her permanently. She's been hiding ever since. Claire swallowed hard. "So this was your plan? Marry him, then betray him?" Emily gave a small, bitter smile. "Exactly. And you? Walking back into his life, that was a gift. You distracted him, you made him careless." Claire's mind reeled. "Then, what happens now?" Emily leaned in. "Now, we end him." Outside the hotel, Claire stood in stunned silence. Every part of her wanted to scream. She had come here to hurt Julian for breaking her heart. But now, she was part of something bigger, something twisted, dangerous, and decades in the making. Web of betrayal that went back further than she could imagine, and she wasn't sure anymore who the real villain was. That night, As she stared out her apartment window, her phone buzzed once more, but this time it wasn't a warning, it was a video. She clicked play. The screen showed Alex, her fake date, in a dark hallway, shaking hands with Julian, her breath caught. They were laughing. Julian handed him something and a thick envelope. Cash. Claire's heart split in two. The camera zoomed in, Alex's voice clear as day. "Don't worry, she trusts me." Julian. "Good. Keep it that way." Claire dropped the phone like it burned her skin. Everything she believed was shattered again. Had this all been a setup? Was Alex just another piece in Julian's sick game? Had she been fooled again? Her hands shook violently. She didn't know if she wanted to scream or cry, but deep inside her, something changed. Something hardened. She was done being the one left broken. Claire stood up and looked at her reflection in the window. Tears ran down her face, but her eyes, they were steel. She whispered, "No more lies." Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat in silence, wrapped in a blanket. The video of Alex and Julian still burned into her mind. The laughter, the envelope, the words. "She trusts me." Good. Keep it that way. Her body had gone numb, but her thoughts wouldn't stop spinning. Alex, the man who had stood by her through everything, was working with Julian. Fake date, fake kindness, fake protection. Everything was a lie. Again, by sunrise, she wasn't crying anymore. She was planning. Claire had trusted too easily, and she had paid for it. But now she saw the truth. Everyone around Julian either feared him, wanted something from him, or were tangled in his web of lies. But Claire, she was done playing along. She was going to burn that web to the ground. She started by digging into Alex's background, not the version he gave her, the real one. Turns out Alex wasn't just a charming man hired by an agency. He was a former corporate fixer, paid to manage problems, silence scandals, and keep men like Julian out of prison. He'd vanished from that world years ago. Or so it seemed. Now he was back. For her, Claire's heart ached, but her mind stayed sharp. If she couldn't trust Alex, she'd use him instead. She called Marcus. "I need everything you have. Full files, records, wire transfers, names. I'm not going down quietly." Marcus hesitated. "Claire, if you do this—" "I'm not asking," she snapped. After a pause, he replied, "Meet me in 2 hours." Meanwhile, across the city, Julian poured himself a drink inside his penthouse suite. The city skyline glittered outside, but his mind was clouded. Everything was unraveling. Emily was distant, too quiet. Natalia had resurfaced. Claire, once irrelevant, had become a problem. And Alex, his most trusted fixer, hadn't checked in for days. Julian clenched his jaw. "I need control back," he muttered. Emily watched him from the hallway, unseen. She slipped away silently and sent a message from a hidden phone. "Emily, he suspects nothing. Move forward." The reply came instantly. "Unknown. Phase 2 begins tonight." Back. At a hidden parking garage, Marcus handed Claire a metal briefcase. "This is it. Every dirty deal, every fake contract, even offshore accounts. You take this public. Julian's finished." Claire stared at it. The weight of it wasn't just physical. It was the weight of years of secrets, betrayal, and buried pain. "What about Natalia?" she asked. "She's safe for now. But if Julian realizes she's alive, she's dead." Claire nodded, noted. As she stepped outside, Alex stood waiting near her car. Claire froze. He looked torn, the guilt written across his face. "I need to talk," he said quietly. Claire held her ground. "Go ahead. Lie to me again." Alex sighed. "It started as a job, yes. Julian hired me to distract you, keep tabs on you. But that's not what this is anymore, not for me. You expect me to believe that? No, but I'm not working for him anymore. Not since I found out what he did to you, to Natalia, to others." Claire's eyes narrowed. "I saw the video." "Alex, Flinched. That was 2 weeks ago, before I knew who you were, He stopped himself. Claire looked away. Before you what? He didn't answer. Silence stretched. Then he said, if you want revenge, I'll help. For real this time? Claire gave a bitter laugh. Not revenge. Truth. I want the truth out in the open. Alex stepped closer. Then let's do it. Together. She hesitated, then slowly handed him a flash drive. I have the files. All of it. Alex nodded. I'll get them to the media anonymously. But we'll need one more thing. What? A confession. From Julian. On record. Claire's jaw tightened. Then let's make him talk. That evening, Claire showed up at Julian's penthouse unannounced. He opened the door, surprised, but intrigued. Claire, back again? She smiled tightly. You win. I want to talk. Julian stepped aside. Come in. Hidden under her coat, Claire wore a discreet recording device. The bait was set. Julian poured her wine. You've caused quite a storm, Claire smirked. You're not the only one who can play games. Julian leaned back. You know, when I first saw you at the wedding, I almost believed it. That you'd moved on. That you were over me. Claire kept her expression flat. You believed what you wanted to. He studied her. Why are you here, really? To say goodbye, she lied, and maybe get closure. Julian's face softened, and for a moment the charm returned. The same charm that once made her fall for him. She hated that it still worked even now. As they talked, Claire steered the conversation toward his past. His deals, his enemies, his regrets. Ever think about Natalia Voss? She asked casually. Julian tensed. Just a flicker. But she caught it. He laughed bitterly. She was a problem. She got what she deserved. Claire's fingers curled around. The wine glass. She tried to expose the truth, Claire said. She didn't deserve to disappear. Julian's voice dropped. She didn't just disappear. I made sure of that. Claire's breath hitched, but she didn't move. Made sure? She repeated softly. He smiled coldly. I paid her off, sent her away. But she came back. She always does. Cockroaches like her always crawl back. Claire stared at him. And if she's still alive? Julian shrugged. She won't be for long. She stood up. Julian frowned. Where are you going? She leaned close. I just got what I needed. Outside, Alex was waiting with the car running. Claire jumped in, pulling off the wire from under. Her coat. Got it, she said breathlessly. Everything. He admitted it all. Alex took the device, nodded and pressed send. The files. The confession. The evidence, all of it. Emailed to 4 major news outlets, 2 federal agencies and a private law firm. Within hours, the story would explode. Back inside the penthouse, Julian received a call. Sir, his assistant said, panicked. You're trending on every platform. The files, they're public. There's an arrest warrant out. Julian dropped the phone. He rushed to the security monitors. Footage showed Claire leaving. She had played him perfectly. That night, news. Stations lit up. Exposed billionaire Julian Hart implicated in years of fraud, blackmail, and abuse of power. Whistleblower Natalia Voss confirmed alive. Leaked audio confirms cover-up. Source unknown at a safe house outside. The city. Claire sat beside Alex. She was quiet, not smiling, not crying, just still. Alex gently asked, Are you okay? She shook her head. No, but I'm free. He nodded. That's something. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and finally asked, Did any of it mean anything to you? Alex didn't hesitate. All of it, especially the part I didn't expect. What part? I fell for you, Claire. Her walls cracked just slightly. I don't know if I can ever trust you, she whispered. You don't have to, he replied. Just let me earn it. She didn't answer, but for the first time, she didn't walk away. As the world turned upside down for Julian Hart, dragged through media, lawsuits, and public shame, Claire finally felt something she hadn't felt in years. Power, not revenge. Not victory, but peace. She'd survived him, she'd outsmarted him, and now she had the one thing he could never take back: her freedom. 1 month later, the world knew the truth. Julian Hart had been arrested on charges of corporate fraud, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and attempted intimidation. His fall was spectacular. Every headline, every outlet covering the once untouchable billionaire's crash and burn. His face, once the symbol of charm and power, was now synonymous with deceit. And Claire, she was finally breathing again. She didn't go back to her old life. Too much had changed. Instead, she moved out of the city, to a quiet seaside town where the wind didn't carry secrets and the ocean didn't judge broken hearts. She rented a small cottage, filled it with soft furniture and second-hand books. She planted lavender in the backyard. For the first time in years, she had peace, without pretending, but healing wasn't a straight line. There were nights when memories still clawed at her. Julian's manipulation, Alex's betrayal, the humiliation at that wedding. But now she knew she was more than what was done to her. Natalia Voss, alive, strong, fierce, came out of hiding once the media frenzy began to shift public sympathy in her favor. With Claire's support, she went on record, not just about Julian, but about the corporate world that had silenced her for years. Her words went viral, her courage sparked thousands to come forward. The world had tried to erase her, but she came back louder. Together, Claire and Natalia started a small foundation for women whistleblowers and survivors of corporate abuse. Claire didn't need to become famous. She just wanted to make sure no one felt as powerless as she once did. And then there was Alex. He came to see her 3 weeks after Julian's arrest. Claire had told him not to. She'd said she needed time, but he came anyway, not to ask for forgiveness, but to give her something. He found her in the garden, knees muddy, hands in the soil. He waited at the gate. Claire looked up, surprised. "I thought I told you not to come." Alex gave a soft smile. "You did, but I figured I'd break one more rule." She stood, brushing dirt off her jeans. He stepped forward and held out a small envelope. "No tricks," he said. "Just something. You should have." She opened it. Inside was a document, signed and notarized, legally transferring the whistleblower files and the media footage from his possession to hers. Total ownership. "No more secrets," he said quietly. "It's yours now, all of it." Claire stared at it, blinking. "Why would you give this up?" "Because I used to work for men who took power from women like you. And now I want to spend the rest of my life undoing that." She looked at him, heart battling with head. "Is this part of the performance too?" "No," he said. "It's the truth, and I'm okay if you never trust me again. I just wanted to show up, not for Julian, not for a paycheck, but for you." Claire folded the document and placed it on the garden table. She was silent for a long time. Then softly she asked, "Do you like lavender?" He blinked. Yeah?" "Then grab a shovel," she said. "There's room for one more row." That afternoon they planted side by side. No promises, no labels, no expectations, just two people, both a little broken, starting again. Claire didn't know if she and Alex would ever be more than that moment, but she knew this: she wasn't afraid anymore. Meanwhile, Julian sat alone in a grey prison cell, watching the news on a cracked TV. No more power. No more charm, just silence. The world had moved on. Without him, he was no longer the center of attention. And for a man like him, that was the worst punishment of all. Months passed. The world slowly forgot the headlines, as it always does. But Claire never forgot the lessons. She wasn't just a woman who had been used. She wasn't just a fake date. She wasn't just the ex. She was a survivor, a truth-teller, and the quiet storm no one saw coming. One night, under a sky full of stars, Claire sat on the porch with a cup of tea. Alex stepped outside, handed her a blanket and sat beside her. "I was thinking," he said, "if someone asked you now who you are, what would you say?" Claire thought for a moment, then smiled. "I'd say I'm the woman Julian underestimated. The woman who walked into a wedding pretending and walked out powerful." Alex chuckled. "Not bad." She nudged him. "What about you?" He looked out at the waves. "I'd say I used to be a lie, and now I'm trying to become someone worth the truth." They sat in silence, not needing to say more, because sometimes survival isn't about shouting your story. Sometimes it's about living it, quietly, honestly, and fully. The end.